Seeing along the shores of the Jordan River as dozens of dead fish were spotted there. Have a look at this. You can clearly see a multitude of dead fish floating in the water. We'll get a better shot of you. There's some fish here.
And then this morning, just came by and then just saw the fish floating down.
In just the small section I walked near Thanksgiving Park, I spotted hundreds of dead fish, and the issue seems to stretch for miles.
And we got further up the river, and there's like clumps of just gross fish, and it smells terrible.
The Jordan River, a river that has witnessed miracles, carried history on its waters, and become a symbol of faith for millions across the world. Its gentle flow once marked the boundary of promise and destiny. Generations have looked to its banks with awe, for it was here that Israel crossed into the Promised Land, here that prophets performed miracles, and here that Jesus himself was baptized. But now, something strange and unsettling is unfolding along this sacred waterway. The Jordan River, once teeming with life and flowing with spiritual symbolism, is showing signs that have left many speechless. Some call it a crisis of nature, others whisper of prophecy. Is the river of miracles sending us a warning? Or is it a sign of something greater still to come? Before we dive into this astonishing mystery, kindly take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Now, let us walk to the banks of the Jordan River and uncover the mystery of what lies within its waters.
What can I do? Cry here on my land? Today I cried enough.
مشيت وسقيت قاع لي يكرهون وهالقلب وعيب يدرون.
The Jordan River is unlike any other on earth. Flowing from the snow-capped peaks of Mount Hermon, through the Sea of Galilee, and finally into the Dead Sea, it has been the backdrop for some of the most powerful events in human history. When the Israelites stood trembling at its edge after 40 years in the wilderness, the waters stopped at God's command, opening a dry path into the Promised Land. When Elijah was taken into heaven by a whirlwind, Elisha struck the waters with his cloak, and the Jordan split in two. And when Jesus, the Son of God, humbled himself in baptism, it was in these very waters that the heavens opened and the Spirit descended like a dove. This river is a symbol of new beginnings, of cleansing, of covenant. To touch its waters is to touch history. To stand on its banks is to stand where heaven once broke through. But today, the Jordan tells a very different story. Its voice is no longer one of rushing power. Instead, in certain places, its bed cracks open with dryness. Where fishermen once cast their nets, bare stones now lie exposed. And now, drifting upon its surface, are silent messengers that send shivers through those who see them. Dead fish, carried lifeless by the current. Imagine walking to the Jordan, expecting to find the stream that once baptized kings and prophets. Instead, in front of you lies a weakened river, shrinking in some places into little more than a muddy stream. Imagine looking closer and seeing fish, not swimming, but floating, not leaping, but lifeless. To scientists, this may be explained by pollution, by sewage, by chemicals that suffocate life from the water. The river has been overused, drained, and neglected until it is barely alive. But to those who know the weight of Scripture, this sight feels like something far greater. Because when the Jordan dries up and when the life within it dies, prophecy begins to echo. The Scriptures are filled with visions of rivers, seas, and waters, not only as sources of blessing, but also as warnings of judgment. Ezekiel spoke of a day when waters would flow out from the temple in Jerusalem, bringing life to even the most barren seas. In his vision he said, "Where the river flows, everything will live. There will be a great number of fish." Ezekiel chapter 47, verse 9 to 10. A prophecy of hope, where death would be swallowed up in abundance. But Hosea spoke a darker word. He warned that when sin and corruption filled the land, even creation itself would mourn. He wrote, "The land mourns, and all who live in it waste away. The beasts of the field, the birds of the air, and the fish of the sea are dying." Hosea chapter 4, verse 3. A prophecy not of hope, but of warning, where the very death of fish was a sign of spiritual decline. And in the final book of the Bible, Revelation, John saw the seas turning red like blood, and the creatures within them perishing as part of God's ultimate judgment. Death in the waters became a symbol of the end of days. So when the Jordan, a river that has always symbolized life, promise, and divine encounter, begins to dry in places and carry lifeless fish, the question cannot be ignored. Are these only the results of human neglect? Or are we seeing prophecy whispered into our generation? There is something profound about the way nature mirrors the heart of humanity. When people live in harmony with God, the land flourishes. When corruption spreads, the earth itself mourns. This is not only symbolic, it is biblical. Paul writes in Romans chapter 8, verse 22, "We know that the whole creation has been groaning, as in the pains of childbirth, right up to the present time." Creation groans because it reflects humanity's brokenness. And in moments like the Jordan drying and its fish dying, we hear that groan. This is not simply about water levels and pollution. It is about the spiritual condition of the world. The Jordan, which once represented cleansing and renewal, is now showing us decay and decline. And that image carries a message that reaches far beyond Israel's borders. Some may dismiss it as coincidence. They will say the river is dying because of agriculture, because of waste, because of human error. And yes, those things are true. But prophecy often reveals itself through natural events. Judgment in Scripture is not always fire from heaven. Sometimes it is drought, famine, or rivers that can no longer sustain life. The Jordan is not just any river. It is the river where God displayed His power. If such a sacred place can now carry signs of death, it forces us to look deeper. Could this be a warning that the times are shifting? Could this be one of the many signs Jesus spoke of when He said, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish, perplexity, at the roaring and tossing of the sea." Luke chapter 21, verse 25. The Jordan drying, the fish dying, the world trembling. These are not random headlines. They are threads in a larger tapestry of prophecy. But prophecy never ends in despair. For every warning, there is a promise. For every death, there is the hope of life. The Jordan may be drying today, but Ezekiel saw a future where rivers of living water would flow from God's throne, bringing life wherever they touched. The fish would return in abundance. The waters would heal. Creation itself would be restored. The Jordan is speaking. Its voice is quiet but haunting. A warning of judgment, but also a promise of restoration. The question that remains is simple, yet eternal. Will we listen before it is too late?